Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I sort of presaged this video in the previous one where I talked about the transparency issue within the finances and membership numbers of the SNP. Well, here we're going to look at it in a little bit more depth. It was shown that it was deliberately covered up, that transparency was rejected, and that people were blocked from even looking at the books. These are people within the party, not outside sources, not press or anything, but internally people were banned from looking at the state of the party's finances by Peter Murrell and by Kirsten Oswald. So we're going to take a look at this to find out why they were so secretive, although we know why. It's because the finances were in such a terrible, parlous state. But why were they, non-elected people, people who were employed by the party, not the elected members of the party, allowed to wield so much power within the party, as opposed to those who had the mandate and the franchise from the people and from the members? It seems a very weird way of running a whelk stall. So we'll take a look at that and other sort of wider implications of what this means, and their general level of openness and transparency, which is, of course, pitiful. So anyway, here goes. Have a look at it. So, Kirsten Oswald and Peter Murrell blocked attempts by SNP members to open finances amid the police probe. Two senior SNP figures were accused of blocking attempts by party members to be more transparent with the finances, following a report written by its deputy leader, Keith Brown. And there's Kirsten Oswald. And she refused, along with Peter Murrell, to allow anyone to inspect the books. You wonder why, don't you? When people are being very secretive about things. From years of being an accountant, I will tell you now, when people start getting secretive and possessive over finances, there's only one reason only. It is it. And that is, I've got to be careful how I put this. It's because certain people within the party are undoubtedly cooking the books and probably stealing money. We see it all the time. You ask any accountant about lack of controls, especially in companies where there's no openness. As soon as you have no openness, where people are sort of restricted to look, it's because something is going on that is probably illegal. But anyway, two senior SNP figures have been accused of shutting down plans by other party members to open their financial books amid a police probe into its accounts. Murrell, who was arrested by cops on Wednesday, and MP Kirsten Oswald reportedly blocked attempts to increase transparency within the nationalist group because, as I say continually, they do not want transparency, they do not want openness, they do not want people to see what is going on behind the closed locked doors of the SNP's counting house, effectively. Deputy Leader Keith Brown wrote a report with proposals which included demanding a monthly written summary of income expenditure, but this was shelved by the party hierarchy in 2021. Every organisation has to have some way of controlling its numbers. Management reports, effectively. You see where your money's coming in. You see where your money's going. You see your cash flow. You see where you have the areas of expenditure. So you can say, well, yes, that's a profit generating expense, but this is an overhead that is like a profit eating expense and things like that. And so you build up an absolutely solid set of books with solid data that you can use to form those management accounts and reports. If they're not doing it, it shows that they don't have the understanding of what it means to run an effective basically set of ledgers, or two, they're being deliberately obfuscatory in order to hide potentially illegal activities, put it that way. So that it automatically stinks. Ask any accountant, that stinks. This took place 4 months after Police Scotland officially launched their investigation into alleged reports of fraud. So 4 months after the police investigation begins, they vote to keep it even more secret. That tells you everything you need to know. It just stinks, doesn't it? Anyway, during this period, Douglas Chapman resigned from his role as treasurer after he was blocked from looking at the books properly. He's the treasurer of the party, and he was banned from looking at the books. It's no wonder he resigned. Anyone with dignity would resign. Anyone who did not want to be associated with any kind of criminal prosecution would resign. So it's no wonder the police are getting so heavy-handed now. Members of the Finance Committee also quitted with similar lack of transparency complaints. The Times reported that a party source claimed that the main blockers to change were people in those non-elected positions like Peter Murrell and Kirsten Oswald, the SNP MP who was appointed business convener by Sturgeon. They added that Mike Russell, the SNP president, was supportive, so the elected party president and the elected deputy leader Brown lost to the unelected Murrell and Oswald. That cannot be allowed to stand. In fact, they need to bring a law in. I think that there needs to be a law in that all parties must provide a monthly table of expenditure and income. It doesn't have to go into too much detail on the monthly basis, but it must come in, a monthly report showing income and expenditure, and then full, open and transparent books once a year showing where every piece of income, say over £1,000, has to be shown where that comes in, and every expenditure over £1,000 has to be fully explained. Every invoice must be interrogable, I think is the word, where anyone can go along with the published accounts and say, oh look, they spent £550 on, let's say, stationery, and you can go in and you can look at every single invoice of stationery that sums up to that 500 and whatever pounds. That's doable. That is completely doable. Today, modern accounting systems, paper records are no longer the norm. You just take a digital image and attach it to the invoice on the system. It's how most of them do it now. Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, you name it, they all do it. So seeing every single income item and every single expenditure item and publish them is not a difficult exercise. Anyway, getting back into it, it's another one of my tangents, isn't it? The Times report said that the police investigation into alleged missing funds would inevitably raise questions about the SNP's financial governance and highlight the need to restore confidence in our procedures. One of the report's conclusions stated, it is imperative that the workings and decisions of the party are transparent and accessible, and they never will be. They never will be with people in charge who do not want openness and transparency, because that would expose what they are doing and what they have done for years. But in a damning assessment, none of the key recommendations have been implemented. One was to create a beefed up finance, audit and risk committee that would provide constructive scrutiny of the SNP's finances and receive the regular reports and bank statements. Other recommendations included more information to be published so the Treasurer can plan accordingly, making cash flow projections, for example, which I've mentioned, so that the party's governing body can be confident of its ability to meet its financial obligations. Without cash flow, no company can exist. It is one of the most fundamental, basic reports any accounts office, any accounts clerk is capable of doing. You look at what your regular income is. You look at what your regular overhead expenditure is. You look at what your projected expenditure is over the next month based on invoices and receipts that you've got. It's not difficult. It doesn't have to be penny accurate. It has to be profiled. It has to be showing that your income is, your profit is there continually. Your resources are increasing slowly over time, perhaps. Or if they're not, you need to know why and what you can do to ameliorate that position. It is a very fundamental and simple report, and they are not doing it, and that is why their accounts are in such a parlous state. Mr Brown also suggested making staff pay scales public and for the SNP to be clearer about how fundraising money was spent, with the 600,000 Independence Fund going missing a sign to do this. And that's simple. That 600,000 should have appeared in the accounts. You have a balance sheet item, and you just put in there, let's just say Independence Fund, £600,000, and it's there. So it's still in your asset column. You still got it as an asset, but it's just individually and separately identified. And had they done that, of course, it would have reduced the other assets, such as cash available at bank. It would have been in the bank, but cash available at bank would have been down. And then there's people who said, well, how come you've only got like £30,000 in the bank? It's because you've earmarked the 600,000 out separately. What they've done is they don't want the public to see, or anyone to see, how poor they are. So they lump the asset of the 600,000, which was supposed to be ring fenced, into the general assets. Sorry, it's an accountancy lesson. I'll stop. But anyway, Mr. Murrell was arrested and questioned under caution for 11 hours on Wednesday. Blah, 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 blah. We've done all that. The new First Minister, Mr. Yousaf, tried to distance himself from the previous party hierarchy. But he can't really, because he's the one who was the continuity candidate. All the way through, he was going about how he was the continuity candidate, how he was so deeply embedded in the party, and how the whole party mechanism was there to help him. And now he's trying to part the ways. But he can't. He is tainted. He is absolutely tainted with this. He said that he asked for a review and described how the governance around financial accountability was not as good as it should have been. And that, I think, he said, is frankly pretty obvious. Yes, but you were part of the problem. You were part of the senior hierarchy. And if anything goes wrong, it's going wrong on your watch. And it's just yet another thing, another little tick to put by Humza Yousaf's box of failures. But the likes of Kirsten Oswald there, and certainly Peter Murrell, and don't they look alike? Have they ever been seen in the same room together? They've both got that well-gregged up face, haven't they? She's got a bit more hair, but you know what? That could be a wig, and that could be Peter Murrell, honestly. Anyway, I will come up and we will round off the video. So yes, the chickens are coming home most definitely to roost. And the eggs they are laying are going to crack that party wide open. I'll stop now with that line of puns. That's terrible. But when you've got these people who are in unelected positions and they're deliberately hiding the books from members of their own party, it can only increase the suspicion that something is amiss. And I think we all know something is amiss. It feels wrong. The police investigation is getting sort of closer to the truth. I think the truth will come soon. I think a few threats and promises may be made. People in positions where they may be liable, for example, may be offered immunity if they spill the beans. And there's quite a few people that would be quite willing to spill the beans because they owe Peter Murrell nothing. But on the other hand, they don't want to spend any time in jail. So I think the truth will out, and I think it's going to be very serious. I have a feeling, looking at other things that I know about, which I'm bringing to you over time as it comes through, but it just seems that it's going to be a lot bigger than perhaps just that 600,000. I think that 600,000 was the keystone, but once you pull that keystone out, this whole bridge of corruption will collapse and take down the party. And here's hoping. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, let's keep these guys under the microscope, and goodbye.